You're listening to the Let's Be Real podcast. Now, here's your host, Andy Hughes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special video edition of the Let's Be Real podcast. I'm Andy Hughes, and I'm joined by a special guest here, Michael McKenry. Michael played 7 seasons in Major League Baseball, including stints with the St. Louis Cardinals, Colorado Rockies, and Pittsburgh Pirates. He's now the Director of Player Development at MTSU and is also an analyst for the Pirates. Michael, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we kind of dive into some of the leadership stuff I wanted to talk about, obviously you love the game of baseball. As your resume indicates there, you played, now you're Director of Player Development, and you're an analyst. Where did that love for baseball begin?
I think when I popped out of my mom's womb, I was always very active, very high strung, and always wanted to do something. So they threw a ball at me, and I just kind of never left my hand. Mm-hmm. So the love for baseball started at a young age, and I was such a strong little kid. I had a lot of different issues when it came to like school and learning and stuff. The one outlet I always had was ball. My first love was basketball. Obviously, I'm only 5'9", a little height challenge, so that wasn't going to be a way I could actually, maybe get a scholarship, extend into maybe even make it a profession. So I knew, about when I was a sophomore in high school where my ticket was to, have a chance to go to college. My parents were middle class, worked, 60 plus hours a week. My mom just retired. She worked 45 years, the same company.
Wow.
So that drive to be able to help them support me through college and then get into pro ball and do something special for them was, another element of not just the love of the game, but the love that it could maybe even spread to my family and now my wife and whatnot. So I've just loved the game forever. And I want to spread that love and spread that like joy you can find in a game that can kind of release what the world brings a lot of times. We hear a lot of negative things.
Right.
Baseball's a way just to kind of have that outlet.
Absolutely, yeah. Baseball's a great outlet for that. And people always talk about the journey to Major League Baseball. How difficult was that? Did you have people saying, oh, you can't do this, you're not strong enough? Did you have things like that?
Oh, yeah. I was told my whole life I was too small, I was too stocky, I couldn't do this, couldn't do that. And it didn't matter if I proved them wrong or not. It was always something else. And, you learn in life that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. It really matters what you say to yourself when you look in the mirror. Like, what can you do? How am I going to do this? And nowadays with the technology that's out, especially in baseball, and really around any profession, you can ask a question and figure out what the answer is. Then you just have to figure out, how am I going to do this? How can I get to this point? I say all the time, I wish I had the ability to go back, kind of resurrect myself, be 21 years old again, so I don't have any questions. Size doesn't matter anymore. It's about exit velocity, launch angle. How well do you do this? How well do you do that? They're always looking for that undervalued player. And I feel like a lot of times that was where I kind of fell into the mix because I wasn't big. I didn't do all the showy things, and it didn't matter what my accolades were. So at the end of the day, being told I couldn't and can't and all this, that went from all the way from school to ball to just about anything I did in life. And I've proved them all wrong. It's been fun doing it.
I'm sure that kind of fuels you in a way, though, doesn't it? All those people saying that stuff.
Oh, no question. I had actually family members tell me I'd never graduate college because I had learning disabilities. I'd never do this, I'd never do that, and I've done it all. I've literally said, okay, I'm going to put my mind to this, and I'm going to be great at it.
Yeah. And one of the things, too, about anything in life, really, I think, is finding that why factor. Like, why am I doing this? Because if you don't have a purpose in life, then what are you really doing it for?
Right. You're letting the waves take you throughout life if you don't have a purpose. If you don't stay in a lane and just kind of run with it, I always say I'm a car with no brakes in my lane. I just keep going and nobody can stop me, because if you allow people to control your thought or control who you are as a person, you're just going to fall short and fall victim to the world. And it's just a bad place to be. You see across the news right now, a lot of times it's just negative.
Yeah.
Where you can change that. And that's where my purpose comes in, is I want to shine my light on a daily basis. I'm a very strong Christian. I want people to see that in me. I don't want it to necessarily say, oh, I'm a Christian, but this Christian's not good. That has nothing to do with my beliefs. I want to be a great person. I want to be as much like Christ as I possibly can. And I want to shine that on anybody that comes in my little area. I only have so much control, and then hopefully that person wants to shine their light. And you just create that little ripple that runs through the world that can possibly change someone's life or change the trajectory of maybe a company or different things. So that's my purpose. I always want to give, love, and just shine.
And in baseball, especially as a catcher, I'm sure you really have to have a good connection with pitchers. Talk a little bit about that relationship, what it takes to build that relationship. I'm sure a lot of work goes into that and building that up.
Yeah, it was my favorite part. I mean, just getting to know the human being. You know, a lot of people talk about, oh, you got to figure out what stuff they have. You got to figure out, you know, what they do well, their temperament, blah, 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 blah. It all started with just, how you doing today, bud? What's going on? You know, where'd you grow up? How's life? Who you dating? Blah, blah, blah. And then you start to see that personality come out. 1, their guard goes down. 2, they start to trust you. And 3, it's really at the end of the day, like once you're out on that field and you're battling together, like you want them to understand that you are there for them, not yourself.
Yeah.
And if they think that you're there for yourself, that you're not going to, you know, block that ball 3-2, run on third base, less than 2 outs, they're not going to throw it. They're going to be tentative, and you never want to have that that tentative mindset. You want to have full conviction, and I feel like it was my responsibility to go out in the bullpen and catch these guys, go in the training room while they're recovering and just sit with them and recover with them. You know, I always said if a pitcher was running in my early pro ball and in college and I was able to be with them, I'd run with them or I'd work out with them or just go to dinner with them. Yeah. Any way I could understand him as a person was going to help me be better for him as a catcher.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, too, one thing I'd like to actually ask you about is when you have all these thousands of people looking at you and you go out to the mound, the pitcher's struggling a little bit. What are some of the things that you say to the pitcher? I mean, what are those conversations like?
So it depends on it depends on the person.
Right.
So if he's a high-strung guy.
There's a standard template.
Right.
Yeah.
So if he's a high-strung guy, I'm going to go out and I'm going to make a joke. I've had guys where I actually made them find something that was funny.
Yeah.
You know, like one guy I had, he would look for the prettiest girl in the stands and just stare at her. Another guy I had said, hey, where's the goofiest looking dude you can find? Best mustache. Just to have their focus shift.
Yeah,
so they can kind of go, whew, I'm all right. And then other guys, you had to go out there and literally ream them a little bit. But you had to understand where that balance was. Because if you went out and reamed at a guy and he wasn't ready for it, or he didn't need it, or he thought I was actually attacking him, maybe from something in his past, maybe his dad was really hard on him his whole life, and then I come out at him almost as a father figure and then just kind of beat him down, that's not going to help us in any way, shape, or form. So that's where you have to really dive in with these guys and understand who they are, where they came from, why they are the way they are, why they grind the way they do, because you're a little different. Just being in the major leagues or being in pro ball, you're the 1% of the 1%. The higher you go and the further you get and the more stardom you have, like some of these guys that I played with, they're superstars. Like they get treated different all the time. Everybody focuses on their jersey and not on their heart. Mm-hmm. And I always try to focus on their heart, and that would help me, you know, figure out what to say to these guys. But a lot of times I just go out. One of my favorite things I would do would be like, hey, love you, mean it. And I'd just walk off. That's all I'd say. Mm-hmm. And how many times that actually just made them go, huh, okay, I'm good. Because sometimes they just need to know, like, I'm here, I care, and whether you make this pitch or not, I'm still going to love you, dude. It's all right. Yeah. Like, you're not perfect.
That's very interesting. And so when you have a teammate that's struggling, is it kind of the same thing where you kind of go up and say, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? It's not really nothing to do with baseball.
So it's funny because now in the realm I'm in, I look for the problems. I look for the fixes, and it's very easy to find. It's something that's always been natural for me. I'm probably way better as a coach type or someone that can, you know, biomechanically see a swing or a flaw. I'm better at that than I ever was as a player. But I always say this, you have to understand what's going on inside that person. Maybe it's an Achilles, maybe it's a hip or something that's out of line or out of whack. And that's the reason those biomechanical things are going on. So the first thing you always do, and I love doing this as a player, no one ever knew I did it. Guys would be in the video room, and I still do it. I still do it when I can get over there. But I just go sit next to a guy and say, hey, what's up? And I just sit there. And most of the time, I don't say a word. And these guys just throw out all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, they're like, thanks, dude. And they go out and they play better. They have more freedom. And it's funny because that's the one thing they never got.
Yeah.
You know, you think about coaches, they're there to help. But sometimes helping is just stepping back, listening, and allow them to help themselves.
Yeah. Now, you've worked with a lot of coaches, a lot of leaders around you, you know, a lot of different players. Is there anybody that really stands out to you, and what did they really do to make an impact on you?
Yeah, my by far greatest leader of men, best coach I ever had is my high school coach, Tommy Farr. He could walk into any room, any club, and win. And the reason he could do that is because he didn't worry about the winning side as much as he did about the person. He loved his guys, and he always said, at the end of the day, some of you guys are going to play in college. At the end of the day, some of you guys maybe get to pro ball. At the end of the day, we may win a state championship. We're going to do everything possible, but you guys are going to be good husbands. You guys are going to be good fathers. You guys are going to be role models. You guys are going to change the community around you because of the people you are. And that's going to be the focus. And you start to realize, like, oh, it all correlates. If I can find good men that want to be good husbands, that want to be good fathers, and that want to give back to the community, all of a sudden I have a good team because you have like-mindedness. You know, we talk about, you hear Clint Hurdle say this, we want to be one heartbeat. That's one heartbeat. Yeah. Because that's actually off the field as much as it is on the field. You know, if you're collectively saying, we want to make a change, we want to be good, we want to be as possibly the best father possible, you're going to want to do that on the field too. So that's my guy. Like, I love him to death. I think the world of him. There's other ones that really, like, impacted me, but he was a guy that was just a little different, still coaching, still winning championships, been National Coach of the Year twice, no coincidence. I mean, he's really special.
Yeah, so it goes beyond baseball. It's
no question.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is empathy. Be real, the E stands for empathy. And I recently saw that you tweeted something. I want to read it because I thought it was really good. You tweeted, empathy is a fundamental requirement for leadership. Without empathy, those leading are not able to understand and feel the needs of people they lead. That was really powerful stuff when I read that. Mm-hmm. How important is it to relate to guys, especially in a role that you're in right now? How important is it to make those connections and really empathize with people?
I think I'm going to go a different direction on you because too often in life, and especially in the realm I'm in, someone approaches me, I know they have an agenda. I know they're not there for me. They don't care about my wife. They don't care about my family. They don't care what's going on at home. They don't know anything about me, but they want something. And too often, that's the realm that these guys deal with on a daily basis. Yeah. Someone walks up to them, and their guard goes up.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, come here, like, come talk to me. Like, I want this person around me, right?
Right.
And that's the problem with not having empathy first. Like, if you're not willing to go up and just be like, dude, what's up?
Yeah.
No agenda, no thought, just caring about the person.
Right.
Doesn't matter what shirt he wears, doesn't matter what uniform he wears, doesn't matter what his job is, what's going on at home or not going at home. If he's a good person or a bad person, just meet the person where they're at in that moment with the purest of intentions. Mm-hmm. And that's what real empathy is. And I think that's the only way to be a leader. That's the only way to lead men, especially. I mean, women are a whole different ball game, but I think at the end of the day, like, you have to understand they're human beings first. People are people, and then they are what they do. You know, like, I'm not going to walk up to you and say, Andy, Be Real podcast. Like, no, I'm going to say, hey, man, what's up? Like, how's home? Like, what's going on?
Right.
Like, that's real. And that's what you want to try to do is just show your heart. I love Louis Giglio saying, he said this at a conference I was at. He's like, you got to be really normal first, and then you can get a little weird.
Right.
If you really want to help someone, just meet them where they're at, and then you can get a little weird on them later on.
Right. No, that totally makes sense, and that's really cool. So now that you're an analyst, you're director of player development, you're a pretty busy guy, but I've noticed that you really do a lot at the community. I actually saw a few weeks ago, I think you did a camp in Whitehall, Pennsylvania, and that was the field that I grew up playing on, so it was kind of cool. So you're so involved with the community and you do so much. What drives you to do that and just continue to work? And, because some people probably would stop at this job and say, I'm good, but you just keep on going.
It's just my heart. I try to think about life and like what I wish I had when I was growing up. I wasn't able to go to a lot of camps, especially the college camps. I wasn't able to have those batting lessons as often as the kids that I was around. I went to a very prestigious high school with a lot of money, but there's a lot of things I couldn't do. And I always think maybe there's one kid like me that wants it so bad, but they don't have the same advantages as others. So if I can go do a camp, especially for a charity, I got to do a Tickets for Kids charity. Just recently we did something for Bow Wow Buddies. Cool. Just being able to give back and kind of show what it's really all about, and it not being about a paycheck and not being about anything more than just giving my time. And that's one thing you can never get back as a person. You can't get your time back ever. So I think whenever you ask someone and they're willing to give their time, I think that means so much more than you could ever write any amount of money or any check. But that's what drives me. I think it's important. And at the end of the day, one of my favorite quotes is it Jackie Robinson, I believe, says, your life, what is it? How would you treat someone that could do nothing for you?
Yeah.
And that's how I want to kind of like base my life around. Like, this person can't do anything for me. How am I going to treat them? What am I going to do for them? Instead of like, what can they do for me?
Right.
Or how can I wiggle in there? It goes back to that empathy. Like, what's more important? Walking away and saying, I did everything I could possible. I was a good person. I walked to those pearly gates and God says, good job. You know, instead of being like, it was okay. Like, you could have done better. Like, I don't want to hear that. You know, you just want to give back and love and be the person that, you know, you hope your son will be, or, you know, that person that's close to you, your friend will be. You just want to shine that light, like I said earlier.
And it's a lot probably like you're trying to be a lifelong learner too. I mean, you've learned a lot about baseball, but now you're on the other side of it. You're player development and also analyst. You know, I'm sure there was kind of a transition period for you there too, just learning about all the stuff with broadcasting. So you're kind of picking up all these skills as you go on.
Yeah, I think if you're not learning, you're doing yourself a disservice. I mean, I think wisdom is one of the most powerful tools you could ever have. So diving into books, you know, hanging out with guys over at AT&T and asking them like, okay, help me out on this TV stuff. Help me out with pronunciation. What do I need to do better? How can I do it better? Like, one thing I had to learn is I'm very high strung. I'm very high energy. Is like when I ask questions, like I'm like, I want to ask a question. So learning how to kind of take that back and just play off my personality a little bit better has been fun to learn. You know, like this is stuff I was terrified of as a kid. I wouldn't speak in front of people. I wouldn't read. I was so far behind at times that it was terrifying. When I got the opportunity to take this job, it was like, this is kind of a funny joke, but let's do this. Let's see what happens if I can kind of overcome some of the fears I've had in my life. And there's still times where like I get anxious and I get really nervous, but you know, I'm able to combat that. And I feel like it's made me better for even the guys like at MTSU to be able to tell them like, hey, you start to get nervous. Like, there's ways that you can combat this in the middle of the game, in the middle of the situation. Because I've been through it on both sides now. I've been through it where I'm in front of the camera. I've been in it where I'm in front of a bunch of people speaking, or just on the field playing. Like, so that lifelong learning. I think if you're not doing it, you're 100% doing yourself a disjustice. And too often we talk about things we don't know about. Yeah. But now, if you can dive in and learn, gain some wisdom, you start talking about things you actually know about and not pretend.
Right. I can relate to that too, because when people that go back to my elementary school, they're like, you didn't say a word in elementary school. Now you have a podcast. Like, they don't understand it. So I can definitely relate to that.
Absolutely.
But one of the cool things too is that with learning, I feel like you kind of have to put yourself out of your comfort zone in a way. Like, to grow as a person, like, you can, like, when you get to the major leagues, like, you've made it, but now what? Like, you just have to continue to have a purpose, I feel like. And so I think if you continue to do that, you can have success.
Right. So something I did, and I did it completely backwards from most people. So when I decided to retire, and I retired on my own terms, which was cool, I went and started teaching kids immediately. Like, I got offered some jobs across baseball, get back in the game, do this, do that. And I was like, no. I went all the way back to youth. I went to 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds, and I helped run practices because I wanted to see if I could. I was never a person that didn't have a heart or an easy time teaching the complex side of it, especially in pro ball. That's what I've been around. So I want to see if I could go all the way back and teach these 11 and 12-year-olds, and I did some 9 and 10-year-olds, how to do certain things, how to make their body move the proper way, how to, get the most out of them by competing in different things. And it really opened my eyes to be able to kind of bridge the gap from where I was to where I came from. And it was really neat. It was a different learning process for me. And then, being able to kind of get out in the community and learn from people like you. Like, I love asking people, like, what do you think's going on with the Pirates right now? Yeah. What would you do different? And it's just, at the end of the day, a different, perspective from someone that loves the team. Maybe they haven't been in pro ball. Maybe they just played high school. Maybe they didn't, but they still love the team. They still have a dire, want in their body for them to do well. So you can learn from anyone at any time. It's just asking the questions and actually wanting to hear something, not asking to react, but asking to say, okay, what do you got? And that's really helped me in life.
Yeah. And I feel like, how big was the trade to Pittsburgh? I feel like Pittsburgh was the one that gave you the Fort McKenry nickname, and now you're an analyst for the Pirates. It seems like you've really fit in well with the Pittsburgh community overall.
Yeah, I felt like a little brother coming in to the city. I mean, they embraced me really well. A lot of injuries were going on behind the plate. I had a history with Hurdle and another coach there, Strip Matter. And they came and got me, and it's been a blessing ever since. I mean, I always knew I had some unfinished business here. I thought it was going to be as a player, but a tug in my heart wanted me to get out of the game instead of staying in the game. So coming back here as an analyst is kind of wild. Yeah. But I'm so happy to be back. Thinking about making this my permanent home. So the city means a lot to me, but the people in the city mean even more.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of great people here. I feel like a lot of athletes say that, so that's awesome. Yeah. You're doing an awesome job here.
I appreciate it. So are you right now. This is
cool. Thank you. So one thing I also wanted to touch on, obviously you're an analyst, you're doing the director of player development stuff. How hard was it to pull away from playing baseball? Because obviously you've been doing it for such a long time. What was that process like?
So I'll tell you a story that not many people know if they don't know me really well. So I couldn't decide. I knew 2017 was a wild mess for me. Yeah. Won the national championship in AAA, had, I think, 9 opt-outs or something like that with the Tampa Bay Rays. They kept wanting me to come back, but I couldn't figure out why because I wasn't really playing. I was just kind of mentoring the guys. So I walked away after we won the national championship, went home, and I was just kind of mulling over it. I went right to work, too. Like, I went to the weight room 2 or 3 days after I got back, ready to go, all the way to January. And then John Gruden went on air. They called me AT&T called me this summer. I was actually still playing and said, hey, if there's any chance you retire, we want you to come interview for this job. I was like, okay, right. No way I'm doing this. But John Gruden kind of talked about what it was like to be able to see all sides and learn from everyone. He wasn't restricted to one locker room. He wasn't restricted to one weight room. He was able to see playbooks from all elements, even in college. And I was like, dude, he got the full spectrum. Like, that sounds awesome. And that made me kind of churn. So what I did was I called the one guy I thought would tell me, you're an idiot. And he told me, I have one question. His name's Jerry Weinstein. They call him the godfather of baseball. He's one of the best coaches of all time in college sports. He goes, will you be upset or mad when you're analyzing somebody that you're better than next year? I was like, no. He goes, take the job. And that was it. Literally, from that moment on, I called and I said, I accept. I interviewed. My wife kind of was like, it's a great learning experience, good opportunity. And I think that's always important. You can always learn from different interviews and just talking to different people. But that one conversation and John Gruden coming out of his role as an analyst and going into coaching and why he stayed for so long just kind of blew my mind. Yeah. And it made me ask the one person, because I had job offers in the game and they were getting better and better as we were negotiating because they saw this opportunity that I had. It was wild. I never in a million years, like literally, I was working out that day, watched John Gruden, called my guy, accepted the job. Next day I was throwing BP to the guys.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild.
It's an interesting story.
It really was wild, yeah.
Now, in addition to what you're doing now, tell me a little bit more about this Tail Tracks project, because this is really cool. I was looking at it earlier, and this concept is just so creative and innovative. I love it. So my best friend, Matt Galfan, lost 2 dogs to cancer, and he wanted to figure out a way he could help vets help us. And both dogs had the opportunity to be treated, but you have a dog, he's not going to tell you what's going on. They're just going to play and play and play. And literally, that's what both dogs did. So he came up with this concept that now is actually real is, why can't we tie these litters together in a fashion that could help the vet? So now we have a platform that is a real-time health alert system that you tie the litters through their vet. So now the vet can look not just at the symptom that the dog brings in that day, but they can look across the litter family and see what's really going on within that family. So if, say, my dog goes in and has hip dysplasia, God forbid that happen, his vet can send an alert to all the other dogs within his litter saying, hey, this is what's going on with Griffin. You may want to check it out. Send your people an email or whatever, get them to come in. If it's really important, they can go a little faster, but if it's not, and then it's turned into something even greater where you can hold all your records. You can find dog parks and pet-friendly hotels and restaurants. And one of the coolest features is something I wish I had as a player is we're putting a QR code for every company that
you take your dog to, they can scan it and see up-to-date records, make sure everything's okay. Because I don't know if you know a lot about dogs, but when you change cities, if you don't have that actual record or proof, I can't get my dog groomed, I can't take him to the vet, I can't do this. It's kind of remarkable. So now you'll have one platform that connects all communities in that dog realm. And I think it's so important because people aren't doing that. We don't even have that as people. Right. Everybody wants to do their own thing, and it's not really about empathy. What do you really care about? And this is completely free right now. It's because we care about dogs. I've lost some dogs to some things that could have been prevented. Yeah. And at the end of the day, why wouldn't you want the information? We do that. The first thing we do when we go to the doctor is fill out that health history, right? Yep. So if you could have your aunt's history, your uncle's history, all that stuff, as soon as you go to the doctor and you don't even have to fill out that, wouldn't that be important?
Yeah, it can make a difference in their life, yeah.
Right. So that's kind of, where it is. And Matt's been awesome with me, mentored me a lot in business. I'm actually consulting a couple companies now. Wow. And it's people I've liked. It's not a business for me. I haven't taken a dime from anyone yet. It's something that I think I'm going to do in the future. But what I've learned from that, by being able to build a platform that's so cool, it's kind of invaluable.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it goes back to that life learner.
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely check that out. Where can people check out more information about that?
You can go to the website, tailtracks.com, or you can download it, Apple, Google. We're doing updates every 2 weeks. It's going to have a social media aspect. It's going to be really, really cool, where you can really just dive into your dog's health and dog's community in one spot. So go check it out. It'll be well worth your time.
Awesome. Yeah. And where can everybody find out more about like some of the projects that you're doing on social media, things like that?
I'm very active on Twitter, and now I'm on Instagram. It took me a little while.
Oh, nice.
To kind of
Welcome.
get into that. Yeah. I realized the platform's really big, and I got into it just this off season. But yeah, you can find me on both at the Fort McKenry. I'm very active. I even have an email if you want camps or anything or speaking. I love to be able to do any of that stuff. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, Michael, this was amazing. This was awesome. We really appreciate you coming on, and thanks again for doing this.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening to this version of the Let's Be Real podcast. I'm Andy Hughes from Michael McKenry. We'll see you next time.
There you have it. This has been another episode of the Let's Be Real podcast.